On the 5th of July 2023, the polished floors of a Neiman Marcus store reflected the hurried movements of a coordinated theft. A young woman, accompanied by two male associates, moved through the aisles, their actions a blend of casual browsing and focused intent. But the illusion of normalcy shattered the moment loss prevention officers made their approach. In an instant, the team dissolved. One man bolted on foot, disappearing into the surrounding streets, while the other vanished in a getaway vehicle. The woman, however, was not so fortunate. Left behind in the chaotic aftermath, she became the sole focus of the authorities, her afternoon of crime concluding with her being detained for questioning. This marked the beginning of a methodical process that would strip away the details of the crime and her life, piece by piece, inside the sterile environment of a police station. The investigation began not with the suspect, but in a back office, far from the scene. Here the evidence was laid out, a collection of high-end merchandise that told its own story of ambition and miscalculation. Officers examined the price tags, their value quickly escalating. One tag read $1,200, another $1,600. The financial scale of the theft was immediately apparent, elevating the incident far beyond simple shoplifting. The officers began to reconstruct the event, using surveillance information to understand the roles each person played. Their conversation painted a clear picture of a well-defined, if poorly executed plan. The young woman was identified as the selector. She was the one who chose the items, her eye for luxury now a key part of the criminal complaint. Her male accomplice, believed to be her boyfriend, was the bagman.
She was selecting, you can see three, looks like someone found the video on the black male. He was downstairs with his, and she held her bag open for him while she watched him throw that in the bag.
So the guy, it's related though, right? You're saying?
He had waited downstairs, and as she brought the selections, she would hold her bag open for him to deposit the stolen goods inside. They were a team, their movements synchronized. The third man was a different story. He was with them but operated independently, stealing his own items. This detail clarified the dynamic, establishing a central conspiracy between the woman and one of the men, with the other acting as a freelancer in their shared criminal enterprise. The officers methodically documented every detail, building a solid case before the suspect had even answered a single formal question. The scene then shifted to an interrogation room, a small, unremarkable space that would soon become the setting for a quiet confession. An officer entered, his demeanor professional and calm, and introduced himself as part of the Orlando Police Department. Before any questions could be asked, he initiated the formal procedure that precedes all such interviews. He began to read the woman her rights, his voice steady and even as he recited the familiar words. This recitation served as a stark barrier, separating her past freedom from her current reality.
So basically I'm going to read you your rights before I can ask you any questions. Okay? So you have the right to remain silent. Do you understand? Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand? You have the right to talk to a lawyer before and during questioning. Do you understand? If you cannot
With
afford
each
a
question
lawyer,
of understanding, she affirmed, the weight of her situation seemed to settle more heavily upon her. Once the formalities were complete, the questioning began. The officer asked what was going on, probing for the reason behind her actions. Her answer was simple and devoid of excuses. She was struggling. She needed clothes. The officer continued, asking how she arrived at the store. She explained that her brother had driven her there, in their mother's car. Her Orlando roots were established, but the question soon circled back to her accomplices. The officer sought clarity on the other men involved. She identified both as her brothers. Yet, when pressed, she clarified they were not biological brothers, a small but significant detail that hinted at a complex web of relationships and loyalties.
And then who was the other gentleman? So you're both brothers? Okay, biological brothers? Not biological brothers?
Throughout the questioning, her honesty was noted by the officer. She did not deflect or deny her role. When asked if she was aware of the total value of the merchandise she had stolen, she admitted she had no idea. Her cooperation was a double-edged sword, simplifying the investigation for the police, while simultaneously deepening her own legal peril. She was a woman in need, now facing consequences far greater than she had likely ever anticipated. With her admission secured, the focus of the conversation pivoted from the crime itself to its inevitable legal ramifications. The impersonal machinery of the justice system began to turn. Another officer entered the room, and the term grand theft was introduced into the discussion. The concept of bail was explained in cold, financial terms.
If you go through a bondsman, you have to pay 10%. And if it's below 1,000, 10% of 1,000 is 100. Say your bond's 500. Bondsmen usually charge a minimum of 100.
The numbers hung in the air, transforming her desperate act into a calculated debt she would now have to pay. The suspect sat silently, her expression a mixture of fatigue and dawning comprehension. A female officer or staff member entered and sat at a computer, beginning the process of booking her into the system. The room grew crowded, yet she seemed more alone than ever. The primary investigating officer gave her a final piece of advice, a simple warning that carried the full weight of her experience.
I think it's basically they distribute it to their other stores.
Then the time for talking was over. The definitive action followed. An officer moved behind her, and the sharp metallic sound of handcuffs clicking shut echoed in the quiet room.
Yeah.
Her hands were now bound, a physical manifestation of her new status. She was led out of the room and down a long sterile corridor, her back to the camera, a solitary figure being escorted toward an uncertain future. Before being placed in the police vehicle, an officer conducted a quick pat-down search for weapons. He asked her if she had ever been in trouble like this before. She replied with a single word, never. The car door closed, and inside, the finality of her situation became undeniable. She had been abandoned by her accomplices, the brothers she refused to name. Her misplaced loyalty had earned her nothing but a solitary journey through the legal system. The screen confirmed her fate with a stark official label. Charges, grand theft 3rd degree.
Why, it says I've been arrested for theft before?
No, that's what I'm just asking. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
She was left behind by her brothers and didn't snitch on them,